I remember the exact moment it happened, like it was yesterday, though it feels like a lifetime ago. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a loud confrontation. No angry yelling, no slammed doors. That would have been easier to understand, more straightforward. Instead, it was a quiet Wednesday evening, and I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping my coffee, when my wife, Clara, walked in and casually dropped a piece of paper in front of me. At first, I thought it was just another one of those little bills she always left lying around, something I didn't need to worry about. But as I glanced at it, I saw the words printed clearly at the top, divorce agreement. My stomach twisted. I looked up at her, trying to read her expression. Clara was standing in the doorway, her arms crossed, watching me with an odd look on her face, like she was waiting for me to say something. Her eyes were strangely calm, even serene. No tears, no anger, just a sense of finality that felt almost calculated. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words caught in my throat. Clara, what's this? She leaned against the doorframe, her gaze never leaving me. It's what it is, Mike. I'm done. I'm asking for a divorce. I blinked, trying to process the words she'd just spoken. A divorce. Just like that. I had no warning. No signs. Clara and I had been together for 8 years. We had built a life together, slowly, brick by brick. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it was ours. I loved her. I thought she loved me. We didn't have any massive issues, at least not that I could see. But now, as I sat there, staring at the paper, it hit me. She was already a step ahead of me. Why? I managed to croak out, still in shock. She exhaled slowly, pushing herself off the doorframe and walking towards the table. Her hands were steady, but I could see the faintest tremor in her fingers. I'm not happy, Mike. I haven't been for a while. And there's someone else. Someone I'm seeing. The words hung in the air, sharp and unyielding. Someone else. I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. Clara, what are you talking about? We've been fine. We've been. She cut me off with a wave of her hand. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. But every time I thought about it, I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. So I figured this would be easier. Easier? I felt the sting of her words, even though she wasn't yelling. This was the quietest betrayal I had ever experienced. I stared at her, struggling to understand. How long had she been seeing this person? Was it someone I knew? Had it been happening right under my nose? I don't want to drag this out, Clara continued, her voice soft but firm. I know this is hard for you to understand, but this is the way it needs to be. I tried to stand, but my legs felt like they were made of lead. I reached for the paper she had given me, but the moment I touched it, she pulled it back slightly, as if testing me. You don't have to sign it right now, she said, her tone oddly nonchalant. But the sooner you do, the sooner we can both move on. There it was, the ultimatum. But it wasn't just any ultimatum. It was different. It wasn't just about ending things. There was something else behind it. She was offering me an out, yes. But there was something about her calmness, her lack of emotion, that unnerved me. I looked at her, trying to make sense of it. Who is he, Clara? Her lips curled into a faint smile, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was something darker, more knowing. His name is Jared. He's a friend of mine. Someone I met recently, but, well, things have gotten complicated. She paused, as if trying to gauge my reaction. I swallowed hard. Jared? That name didn't sound familiar at all. But the way she said it made my skin crawl, like she was holding something back. Complicated how? Clara hesitated for a moment, then leaned forward slightly. It's not just about Jared, Mike. It's about what I need, what I want. You don't understand yet, but you will. I frowned, not sure if I was supposed to be afraid or confused. My heart was pounding now, and I felt the walls of my world start to crumble. What do you mean by that? She straightened up, her expression hardening just a little. I've already made my decision, Mike. I've chosen Jared. But I need you to agree to one thing before we go through with this. I blinked, not sure I was following. What are you talking about? I need you to accept it. Accept him. Accept that I'm moving on, and that I've already found someone else. If you don't, if you try to stop me, things will get worse. I promise you that. I sat there in stunned silence. Was she threatening me? Was she warning me? But before I could process any more, she added the final twist. I'll only leave once you sign the papers, Mike. But there's one condition. I need you to agree to one thing. A deal, really. If you accept Jared, if you accept everything that's happening, Then we can go our separate ways without any more trouble. I stood frozen, trying to keep my breath steady. What? What's the deal? Clara's lips parted slightly, a strange glint in her eye. I need you to trust me, Mike. Trust that this is the only way forward. If you sign these papers, everything goes smoothly. But if you don't, then I'll make sure your life gets a lot harder. It wasn't just a divorce. It wasn't just about ending a marriage. There was something she wasn't telling me, something hidden behind her words. And that's when I realized I was caught in something bigger than I could possibly imagine. It wasn't just about letting go. It was about what she wanted from me next. And I had no idea what that would be. I tried to process what Clara had just said, but my mind was a blur. Everything about the situation felt wrong, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. My eyes were locked on her, but she wasn't even looking at me anymore. She was staring out the window, as though this was all just part of some script she had already memorized. Clara, I whispered, trying to steady my voice. What do you mean by accept him? I don't get it. What's this, deal? She turned her head slowly, and for the first time since she walked in, I saw something close to regret in her eyes. But it didn't last long. The cold, detached expression came back just as quickly. Jared, she said, her voice low, he's important to me now. And I need you to understand that. I can't have you in my life, Mike, unless you accept the fact that it's over. I need to feel free. That means no more arguments, no more trying to fix things between us. I felt like I was drowning. What did that even mean? She wasn't just leaving me. She was asking me to endorse her decision, to give her permission to walk away without any of the usual mess. No drama, no conflict. But the way she said it, it was almost like she was testing me, as if she wanted to see if I would bend to her will. I stared at the divorce papers again, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. And if I don't agree, what happens then? Clara took a slow step forward, her voice barely audible, but it was chilling. If you don't agree, things will get ugly. And I mean ugly, Mike. I don't want that. I don't want to hurt you more than I already have. But I can't stay in this marriage if you can't accept what's happening. I felt a tightness in my chest. This wasn't just a conversation anymore. This was a negotiation. She wasn't asking for my approval, she was demanding it. I've made up my mind, she added. And so have you, whether you realize it or not. The sooner you sign those papers, the sooner we can both move on with our lives. I looked at her, my heart racing. She wasn't the same woman I had married. That much was clear. The coldness in her voice, the way she was so detached. It was like she had already mentally checked out of our marriage long before she ever brought up the divorce. But what was this deal? What did she really want from me? It wasn't just about letting her go. There was something deeper here, something she was hiding from me. And I had no idea what it was. For a moment, I thought about walking away. I could refuse to sign the papers. I could tell her to leave, to take whatever she wanted, but I would keep my dignity. But that's when Clara did something I didn't expect. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope, one that had been sealed with a wax stamp. My curiosity got the best of me, and I took it from her, my fingers trembling. Open it, she said flatly. I slid my finger under the seal and opened the envelope. Inside, there was a single sheet of paper. It was a photograph, not of us, but of Clara and someone else, someone I didn't recognize. The man in the picture was holding her hand, smiling, his face too familiar for comfort. My heart sank as I looked closer at the photo. The man in the picture. It was Jared. Is this the life you want? She asked, her voice suddenly softer, almost sad. Do you see it now? This is what I need, Mike. I need you to accept this if we're going to move on. I'm not asking you to forgive me, but I am asking you to let go. I wanted to shout, to ask how this could be happening, but I couldn't find the words. I just stared at the photo, my mind whirling with questions that had no answers. What was the real game here? Why was Clara doing this? And why did it feel like I was the one being manipulated? She gave me one last look, and I saw something different in her eyes. For the briefest moment, there was vulnerability, something raw, but it was gone almost as quickly as it had appeared. I'll leave you to think about it, she said, turning to walk out of the room. You know where the papers are. I didn't say anything as she left, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't just sign and let her walk away. There was more to this than a simple divorce, and I was going to find out what it was, even if it meant tearing apart everything I thought I knew about her. Because Clara wasn't telling me everything, and if I was going to have any peace, I needed to uncover the truth. The house felt empty after she left. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't this quiet, this eerie. Clara's presence was always so dominant. Her energy filled the room, for better or worse. But now, it was like a piece of me had been ripped out. I just stared at the photo of Clara and that man, Jared, sitting on the table in front of me. I couldn't stop looking at it. His smile was so comfortable, like he belonged there. I had to know more. How long had this been going on? Had I missed the signs? Was I so oblivious that I couldn't see her slipping away? I needed answers. Without thinking, I grabbed my jacket and left the house. My feet took me to the only place I could think of, Clara's office. She worked at a small marketing agency downtown, and I'd been there 100 times, but now it felt like I was walking into enemy territory. I tried to keep calm, but the closer I got to her office building, the more anxious I became. What if I was wrong? What if this was all just a misunderstanding? The questions buzzed in my head, louder than anything else. But something told me I needed to know, even if the answers were ugly. I walked into the lobby, trying not to draw attention to myself. Her office was on the 3rd floor, and I knew exactly where it was. But as I approached the elevator, I froze. There, standing by the entrance, was a familiar figure, Jared. He didn't see me at first, but I saw him clearly. He was leaning against the wall, talking to one of the receptionists. I knew it was him because of the photo. The way he carried himself, the way he smiled, it was unmistakable. My heart dropped. This was real. I wanted to confront him right then and there. I wanted to walk up to him, grab him by the collar, and demand to know everything. But something held me back. I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Instead, I took a step back, hoping he wouldn't see me. I watched him leave the building, his face unreadable as he walked toward the parking lot. As soon as he was out of sight, I hurried to the elevators, my mind racing. What now? The elevator ride felt like an eternity. When I reached her floor, I took a deep breath and forced myself to walk to Clara's office. I knocked on the door, trying to steady my hands. "Come in," Clara's voice called from the other side. I opened the door slowly, and she looked up from her desk, startled. She hadn't expected me. "Mike?" she asked, her voice shaking just a little. "What are you doing here?" I didn't respond right away. Instead, I just walked in, closing the door behind me. "I saw him," I said quietly, almost too quietly. Her face went pale, and I could see the panic in her eyes. "What?" "Jared," I said, my voice gaining strength. "I saw him downstairs." "I know what's going on, Clara." She didn't answer right away. She just stared at me, her eyes darting back and forth, as if trying to figure out how to play this. Then she sighed, slumping back into her chair. "I didn't want you to find out this way," she muttered, almost to herself. "I really didn't. But you didn't mind hiding it from me for months?" I shot back, the anger rising in my chest. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said quickly, standing up. "I really didn't. I thought, maybe if I just ended things quietly, it would be easier for both of us. But it's never easy, is it?" I felt the sting of her words, but I couldn't back down now. She didn't get to decide how easy this was. "So what now? You're just going to walk away, leave me with nothing?" Her eyes flickered with something that looked almost like guilt, but she didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked toward the window, staring out at the city. "I don't want to fight with you, Mike. But I can't pretend anymore. Not with you. Not with Jared. Not with anyone." I swallowed hard. "You can't just disappear. You can't just act like this is something simple." "I know it's not simple," Clara said, turning back toward me. "But this is the life I want now. Jared is different. He understands me in ways you never did." Her words cut deep, deeper than I thought possible. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about everything I had failed to see, everything I had missed. I wasn't the person she needed anymore. "I'm sorry, Mike," she whispered, her voice softer now. "I never meant to hurt you, but I've made my choice." I stood there, unable to speak. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had loved, was gone. But something told me this wasn't over. It couldn't be. There was something more to this story, something that Clara wasn't telling me, and I wasn't about to let it go. I left Clara's office feeling like I was floating, disconnected from everything around me. The words she said kept echoing in my head. "Jared understands me in ways you never did." It wasn't just the affair, it was how she saw me, how she saw us. We weren't just drifting apart. She had already moved on. But there was one thing I couldn't shake. Why had she kept it from me for so long? If she was so sure about him, why didn't she tell me earlier? I needed answers. I didn't want to confront her again, not yet. I wasn't ready for another round of excuses. But maybe, just maybe, I could find out something else. I headed home, my mind racing with possibilities. I wasn't sure what I was expecting to find, but as soon as I walked through the door, I knew something was off. The air felt heavier, charged with something I couldn't quite put my finger on. I went straight to the living room, my eyes scanning the space. And that's when I saw it. A small, unassuming box on the coffee table. It wasn't there before. It had to be important. I picked it up, my heart beating faster as I realized it wasn't sealed. Inside, there was a single letter. The handwriting was Clara's. I tore it open, desperate to understand what it was she hadn't told me. Mike, I know you're upset, and you have every right to be. But I can't keep pretending like I'm still the person I was when we first met. I want you to know that this decision wasn't easy for me. But I'm asking you to do something for me. Something that will give us both the peace we need. There's more to all of this than you realize. I need you to trust me. I need you to let go and move on. It's the only way forward. My heart dropped. Let go? There was something in the tone of the letter that made me feel like she wasn't just asking for space. It was like she was trying to pull me into something darker, something I wasn't prepared for. I dropped the letter on the table and ran my hands through my hair. Peace. How could I have peace when everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie? I couldn't stop myself. I needed to confront her again. I needed answers. But as I reached for my phone, I hesitated. What if I was missing something? What if there was more to this than just Clara and Jared? There had to be something hidden beneath the surface. Something I was failing to see. And I was about to dive deeper into a web of secrets that would change everything I knew about the woman I once loved. That night, sleep evaded me. I tossed and turned in bed, haunted by Clara's words, by the photo of her with Jared. It felt like a weight was pressing down on me, suffocating me. I thought about the letter I'd found on the coffee table, the way it felt like she was trying to push me toward something. I wasn't ready to give up, not without understanding what had really happened. Around 3 a.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my jacket, still feeling the remnants of that restless energy. I had to do something. I needed answers. But this time, I wasn't going to talk to Clara. I was going to find out for myself. I pulled into the parking lot of the bar that Jared frequented. It was a dimly lit, quiet place, the kind of spot where people went to hide from the world. The kind of place where secrets festered. And something told me this was where I could finally uncover the truth. I didn't expect him to be there, but I hoped I could catch a glimpse of him, maybe talk to someone who knew him. I'd never been the type to follow people around, but something inside me pushed me forward. This wasn't just about Clara anymore. It was about everything. My life, my relationship, the things that had been hidden from me. I walked inside, the door creaking as I entered. The dim lighting made it hard to see, but I could make out a few figures hunched over at the bar. I scanned the room. There he was, Jared, sitting at the far end of the bar, laughing with the bartender. His face was relaxed, the opposite of how I felt. My heart raced as I approached him. He didn't notice me at first, but when I was close enough, I cleared my throat. Jared, I said, my voice cold, unsure whether I was ready for this confrontation. He turned around slowly, his eyes narrowing when he saw me. For a moment, he just stared, taking in my face. He wasn't surprised, he knew I was coming. You shouldn't be here, Mike, he said casually, as though he'd been expecting me. Why don't you tell me why I shouldn't be here? I shot back, trying to keep my voice steady, but my pulse was pounding in my ears. Jared leaned back in his chair, his demeanor unfazed. He seemed entirely comfortable in the situation, like he was the one in control. Because you won't like what you hear. You've already been given your answers. It's over, Mike. I took a step closer. You've been seeing my wife for months. How long was this going on, huh? He didn't flinch. You're a smart guy, Mike. You already know it's been a while. But you should know, Clara didn't just fall into this. She chose me. She's tired of pretending, tired of the life you two had. His words were like a slap to the face, but something about them felt too rehearsed. Clara chose him? Was that the full truth? I stared at Jared, fighting the urge to lash out. Is this all some game to you? She was my wife, man. And now you're just stepping in like it's nothing? Jared's expression hardened for the first time. Don't pretend you're the victim here. Clara told me everything about how you two stopped being partners a long time ago. You weren't there for her. You shut her out. The accusation stung. He was right, to some degree. We'd been drifting for a while, but I never expected her to turn to someone else. The words she had written in the letter came flooding back. I need you to let go. But there was something off about Jared's tone. He seemed almost too certain of everything, as though he knew more than he was letting on. What's your angle, Jared? I asked, narrowing my eyes. You think you're just going to take her from me and walk away? He chuckled, the sound low and mocking. It's not about me taking her, Mike. She's already made her choice. This is about you letting go. You have no say in this anymore. I felt my hands tighten into fists, but I stayed calm. What's this all really about? Why are you so sure she wants you? What's your game? For the first time, Jared hesitated. His mask slipped just slightly, and I could see a flicker of doubt in his eyes. It lasted only a moment before he regained control, his smirk returning. I'm not the one who's been blind to what's been happening, he said, his voice darkening. But you'll understand soon enough. Clara's made her choice. And you? You'll have to live with it. Something about that last sentence made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Live with it. What did that mean? As I walked out of the bar, the pieces began to fall into place, but they didn't fit neatly. The more I thought about Jared's words, the more I felt like I was missing something huge. I had to know more about this man, more about Clara's involvement with him. What was his hold on her? Why was he so confident, so sure of her? And what had she truly been hiding all along? I had to find out before it was too late. I couldn't sleep that night. The words Jared had said kept playing in my head. You'll understand soon enough. What did he mean by that? What was I missing? I woke up early, my mind still racing. I couldn't just sit back and wait for Clara or Jared to explain things. I needed to dig deeper. There was something they weren't telling me, something more than just a simple affair. It was all too clean, too controlled. I had to find the cracks. I decided to go through Clara's things. It wasn't something I was proud of, but at that point, I was desperate for answers. I started with her desk, where she kept all her personal papers. The usual stuff, bills, receipts, documents. But there was one drawer that seemed oddly untouched. I opened it slowly, the sound of the drawer scraping against the wood filling the room. Inside, there were a few old letters, a couple of books, and another envelope. This one wasn't sealed like the others. I hesitated, but then curiosity got the better of me. I slid the envelope out and opened it. The contents weren't what I expected. It was a letter from someone named Ethan, dated just a few weeks ago. I read the first few lines, and my stomach turned. Clara, I know you've made your choice with Jared, but I still can't help myself. There's too much between us, too much history. You don't have to be with him. You're still mine. We both know it. I froze. Ethan? Who was he? Another piece of the puzzle, another man I knew nothing about. The letter was filled with intimate details, details only someone close to her would know. Whoever Ethan was, he clearly had a hold on her. I felt sick to my stomach. I had to find out who Ethan was, and why Clara was keeping all of this hidden. My thoughts raced as I grabbed my phone, dialing the number on the letter. The phone rang 3 times before someone picked up. Hello, a deep voice answered. Who is this? I asked, my voice steady despite the panic rising in my chest. Who's this? The man on the other end replied, sounding cautious. I'm Mike, Clara's husband, I said, feeling a chill spread through me. Who are you? There was a long pause before the man responded, his voice colder now. I don't think you're ready for this, Mike. But if you must know, Ethan's an old friend. Someone from Clara's past. A past she's trying to leave behind. His words sent a shock through me. Leave behind? If Ethan was someone from her past, why was he still contacting her? Why was Clara keeping all of this secret? Why are you contacting her now? I asked, trying to stay calm. The man on the other end let out a small laugh. She's been avoiding the truth for too long. She's in denial about what she really wants. And as for you, Mike, it's time you face the facts. Clara's moving on, and there's no going back. I felt the ground shift beneath me, like the entire world was tilting. Clara had kept this man a secret from me. But why? What was it about Ethan, about Jared, that had turned her away from me? I ended the call, my mind spinning. There was so much more I needed to know, and every answer seemed to open a new door to something darker. The web Clara had woven around me was far deeper than I ever imagined. I had no idea what I was about to uncover, but I knew one thing for sure. Nothing was as it seemed. The phone call with Ethan was the final straw. I sat there in the silence of the room, my heart pounding in my chest. I had been right all along. There was something much darker at play here. But the more I tried to piece it together, the more confused I became. Clara had been hiding things, more than I could ever have imagined. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was chasing shadows, that every answer I found would only lead to more questions. But I had to press on. I had to know who Ethan really was. I spent the next few hours digging through every contact I could find. Clara's phone was locked, of course, but I was desperate. I remembered she had a shared account with a friend of hers, Megan. It was one of those old, harmless habits, a way to organize grocery lists, events, that sort of thing. I knew it wasn't a big deal, but today, I couldn't help myself. I logged into the account, praying I wouldn't find anything incriminating. But of course I did. There, buried deep within the shared folder, was a conversation thread. At first glance, it seemed innocuous, but as I scrolled through it, I started to piece together more of Clara's lies. It was from weeks ago, and the language was intimate. They were planning something I was clearly not invited to. Clara and Ethan. It wasn't just a conversation about the past. They were talking about the future, about running away, about escaping the life she had built with me. The words were cutting, cold, like Clara had already made up her mind. I need to get away from him, she had typed. I can't pretend anymore. I'm suffocating here. I felt the floor shift beneath me. My mind was spinning. She was planning to leave me for him. The whole time, I thought I was the one who had been blind, but it was Clara who had been living this double life, lying to both Jared and me. I couldn't just sit on this. I had to confront her again, face to face. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I drove to her apartment. It wasn't the first time I had been here, but this time, everything felt different. The air was thick with the weight of the secrets I was about to uncover. My heart raced as I knocked on the door, hoping she'd answer, hoping for some sort of explanation that would make sense of all this. When Clara opened the door, I saw the surprise in her eyes. She wasn't expecting me. Her hair was messy, as if she had been pacing, thinking about something. But before she could say a word, I cut her off. "Who's Ethan?" I asked, my voice trembling with anger. Her face paled. I saw the flicker of guilt, but it was quickly replaced by a cold, defensive look. "Mike, this is unnecessary. Don't lie to me." I shot back. "I know about the messages. The plans. You and Ethan, you're planning to leave me." Clara's expression shifted. There was a moment where I thought she might break, where she might actually tell me the truth. But then, just as quickly, the wall went up again. "It's not what you think, Mike. It's complicated." "Complicated?" I laughed bitterly. "Complicated doesn't even begin to cover it. You've been living this secret life, hiding things from me, lying to my face. And now you're going to stand there and tell me it's complicated?" Her eyes hardened, and I saw the woman I had loved slip away, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. "You don't understand," she said softly. "I've tried to make it work, I really have. But I'm not the same person anymore. And neither are you." I couldn't breathe. This was the woman I had married, the woman who promised me forever. And now she was standing there, telling me that it wasn't enough. The weight of her words sank in. I had thought I was the one who had failed her, but it was Clara who had already checked out, who had been making plans behind my back for months. The silence between us stretched out, heavy with the weight of all the unsaid things. Finally, Clara spoke again. "I think it's best if you leave, Mike. This is over." I stood there, staring at her, my heart breaking all over again. The life I thought we had was gone, and I had nothing left to say. I walked out of her apartment, knowing that something inside me had shattered beyond repair. But as I stepped into the hallway, I heard her voice one last time. "Mike," she called after me, her tone softer. "I'm sorry. I didn't turn around. I couldn't." Because the truth was clear now. Clara was already gone. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. The pain, the betrayal, it all felt suffocating. But as time passed, something began to shift inside me. I realized that the life I had built with Clara, the life I thought was solid and unbreakable, had never really been mine to begin with. She had moved on, but I still had a chance to move forward. I started to focus on the things I had neglected, the things that had always been important to me, but that I had pushed aside for years. I reconnected with old friends I hadn't seen in far too long, and I rediscovered the simple joy of just being by myself, without the weight of someone else's expectations. I took up hobbies I had once loved but abandoned: painting, hiking, even just reading a good book without any distractions. It felt liberating. The space that Clara had left behind was overwhelming at first, but slowly, it became a space for me to rediscover who I was without the burden of lies and deceit. One evening, a few weeks later, I found myself at a local art exhibit, a place I used to visit all the time but had long stopped going to. I was walking through the gallery, admiring the artwork, when I noticed her. Her name was Emma. She was standing by a painting, completely absorbed in its colors. I wasn't expecting anything, but our eyes met, and there was this quiet moment of recognition, like we both understood the same thing without saying a word. She smiled at me, a warm, genuine smile, and it felt like a breath of fresh air after so many months of suffocating uncertainty. We started talking. At first, it was just casual, about the art, the weather, life in general. But as the conversation unfolded, something clicked. It was natural, easy, nothing like the forced conversations I had with Clara in the last months of our marriage. It felt good to laugh again, to be in the moment with someone who didn't carry the weight of betrayal. As we talked, I realized something important. I wasn't alone. The pain of the past was still there, but it didn't define me anymore. There was so much more waiting for me, and it wasn't tied to the past. Emma and I exchanged numbers that night, and from then on, our connection only grew stronger. She didn't know the details of my past, and I didn't feel the need to share them. What mattered was that we were building something new together, slowly but surely. The healing didn't happen overnight. There were days when I felt the ache of what I had lost, but the days when I smiled, when I laughed, were becoming more frequent. And every time I saw Emma, I felt a little more whole, a little more like the person I was before the chaos. Months passed, and one morning, while having coffee with Emma, I realized just how far I had come. I wasn't the same person who walked into that bar to confront Jared. I wasn't the person who had stood at Clara's door, hoping for answers that never came. I was someone new, someone who had learned that life could be unpredictable, painful, and messy, but also beautiful, filled with possibilities I never imagined. The truth was, life had a way of moving forward, whether we were ready or not. And in that moment, I understood I wasn't defined by the past. I was defined by what I chose to become from it. And as I sat there, sharing a quiet moment with Emma, I knew that I was finally at peace.